Okay, so let's go for this webinar with a little bit mysterious title, Spotting Invisible Stars, Broaden Your Horizon to Discover Hidden Talents. We have decided for this title because we believe that companies, managers, and HR are very good in spotting many talents, many potentials, but there are those that stay very often a bit hidden and are not so easy to identify. So we decided for this webinar, and who will guide you through it? Let us introduce ourselves very briefly. So my name is Hanna Keita-Rizmanova. I'm a senior consultant of assessment systems, Czech Republic. Together with me today is my dear colleague Peter Paterman, consultant from assessment systems, Hungary.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, and we have a pleasure to have here today a special guest, Anniko Tarci, HR business partner from HR business partner Europe from Deutsche Telekom. Welcome, Anniko.
Hello, welcome. Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Hello. We are very glad to have Anniko here because Anniko will share with you her experience and best practice when it comes to an approach that enables Deutsche Telekom to discover their hidden stars. So she will also share this with us. And very brief introduction of our company. Assessment Systems Group is an international group growing since more than 22 years. This is thanks to our satisfied clients. You can see we have more than 5,000 clients, and we are able to serve you in 8 offices, maybe, or 9 offices now, because maybe also those who know us might not have spotted the news, which is that we have just opened a new office in Vienna, in Austria. So we can serve you also directly there, but we are able to cover up to 50 countries if need be, in 15 spoken languages, maybe even a bit more. And what we do is what I would call a people consulting. Yeah. So what does that mean? We help companies to do the right choices when it comes to people, and part of it is exactly about discovering talent, mapping the potentials in the company, and we use for that top-notch methods and data. And this is another reason why we do this webinar, in fact. So, as we like to start with why, there is a lot of space for why here. And I wanted to share with you this interesting study. It's a survey called Future of Jobs. Probably you know because it's very well known. It's a high-quality survey from World Economic Forum. And it shows pretty well why this topic is so important. The survey, just for your information, covers more than 100 companies in 27 industries and 45 countries, so it's really a huge one. And in fact, what you can see on the left side is that when they ask companies, what do you think are the main barriers blocking or preventing business transformation, 60% of the companies say it's skills gaps in the local labor market. Yeah, and 53% of these companies says is inability to attract talent. Yeah, so you see, it's all about skills. It's all about people. It's all about skills, potential, and talents. And we see on the 4th position also skills gaps among the organization's leadership. Okay, so here we are. This is what we are missing. This is what would make us go much more fast forward. Yeah, and what do companies say about their workforce strategies that should help them to get over this, problem? It's not surprising. So in the next 5 years, most companies plan to implement following workforce strategies. The first one is investing in learning and training on the job, with 81% of companies going for that one. Yeah, of course, automation of processes. Yeah, they want to accelerate this. By the way, the digital progress, according to surveys, seems to be slower than we supposed a few years ago. And you see on the 3rd position, there is a transition of existing staff from declining to growing roles. So again, of course, logically, the workforce strategies are around learning, relearning, reskilling, upskilling of people. Yeah. So it's the key theme of the day for most of the companies and for HR as well, of course. if you want to do that workforce strategy, you need to know first what skills you will need in the near and far future, and this is already giving headaches to companies. Then you need to know to map very well what skills you have inside of the company. There are tools for that. It's possible to do it. We are getting better in that. But what you need to know as well, and this is the topic of this webinar, is what potential, what talents your people really have, so that you develop the right people, the right skills. Yeah. So another reason, and yes, the why is very crucial for me, as you see. Another reason why to speak about this topic is that the approach to talent in certain companies, everybody is considered a talent, every employee. And from psychological point of view, and also as a person privately, I believe, yes, we all have some potentials to develop. But we need to really spot those talents that we need. Yeah, what companies are usually very good at doing is evaluating the job performance and the level of competencies that people have. Yeah, most of the companies have some job performance measures. And also, I think most companies are quite good in, discussing the motivation, evaluating the engagement of people. Yeah, which brings them the focus very logically to so-called high performers, people who are high in both of these criteria. That's very good. That's the condition without which we wouldn't be successful, and we would like all of our employees usually to be high performers. Yeah, so it sounds like, yeah, where's the problem? When we focus on the high performers, we tend to give them some support, but sometimes also overload them. But we kind of at least somehow work with them. But what happens that we have another 3 groups in which we focus on solving a problem. We have someone who is competent but not motivated. Okay, let's solve the problem, of the motivation. We have someone who is who doesn't have the performance we want, seems not motivated. So yeah, again, a problem to solve. And then we have people who are maybe very enthusiastic, very motivated, but don't have the job performance that we want, maybe don't have the competencies. And again, it's a problem that we need to solve. By the way, speaking about this group, very often these are simply junior people who need to be developed. And this is what Aniko will also speak more about in her part about the project 30 under 30. So you will see how Deutsche Telekom approach exactly this group of people and how they looked for the talents inside the group and the potentials. Yeah. So we are kind of somehow omitting very often the other 3 groups as a very good source of talent. And moreover, we might have a tendency when we focus on someone to focus on juniors, yeah. But at the same time, in especially in Europe, most of the active population now is in their like 40s and 50s. This is very typical for Czech Republic, but also for other countries. And we often do not think about these people as those who have further potential, even though they will stay in their active life for another like 20 years. Yeah. So here's the big question mark, like, we should rather not focus on solving a problem, but look really for the talents and the potentials, but they are not always easy to be identified. So yeah, with that, I would just like to say a few words about, let's say, the traditional ways how we identify talents and their limits. When I speak about traditional methods, I speak about exactly job performance criteria, motivation or performance reviews, discussions. Even 360 is a tool that some companies use. They are all good, but they have certain limits. They might not be good for juniors or newcomers because they simply cannot have the job performance as early as others or at the same level as others. Well, when it comes to 360, sometimes we might have people who have low visibility and they want, other people wouldn't be able to spot their talents. Yeah, Peter will speak about it a little bit more in a while. We also might have people who have low fit with the current position. So it's not that they don't have further potential or talent, but they are not able to show it in the current position. And as I mentioned before, we tend to focus on high performance, often hard workers. Yeah, it's logical and it's very good, and we need to also continue with that, of course. Yeah, I'm not saying the contrary, but the thing is that high performer of today is not necessarily a high performer of tomorrow. Yeah. So what to do about it? First, I think, or we think it's very important to enlarge a little bit the way we look at the talents. And we have taken here a definition which kind of summarizes the psychological approach to talent. This one is by Britannica, and I like it because it's pretty simple but very clear and with the most important points in it. So a talent being a native aptitude for some special kind of work and implies a relatively quick and easy acquisition of a particular skill. So you see, it's something that is given to us, something that is more like innate, but we need to develop it. And if it's a talent, we can develop it very quickly or to a very master levels. Yeah. So that's basically a definition that can help us to look a bit differently on the talents. Psychology also emphasizes intelligence as a very important part of a talent. Yeah, and I will speak about it also why it's very important for us in companies, but also, for example, creativity or other specific skills. Again, on this, I will let Peter to develop much more, to go more deeper on that topic. Why intelligence is so important as within a definition or identification, of talents within companies. Intelligence is frequently reported in the findings of different various psychological studies to be the best single predictor of job performance. Of course, we have another predictors, so like, for example, experience. Yeah? But from psychological view, this one seems to be the best single predictor. Yeah. Especially general mental ability. I think Peter will also speak a little bit about it, which is kind of underlying factor under the intelligence. Next to intelligence, the studies show that there are some kind of, I call it personality traits, maybe to put it very simple, like conscientiousness or neuroticism that are very good job predictor. And these two, they come from a big five personality theory, which is also behind the methods that we use, Hogan assessment methods. And in fact, conscientiousness, you can imagine it as being somewhere on the scale between efficient and organized to extravagant and careless, yeah, to put it very simple. Yeah. And neuroticism has something to do with emotional stability. Yeah, so typically neuroticism can be a tendency to mood swings or anxiety or irritability, things like that. And very interestingly, the late studies, core self-evaluation is also a topic that seems to be having a very good predictive value. Core self-evaluation, you can imagine it as some kind of instinctive judgments that we do about ourselves, our lives, and it includes things like self-esteem, self-efficacy, and emotional stability as well. It's also part of it is in fact conscientiousness. So this is a bit psychological view, psychological factors that can predict job performance. And very interestingly, before I pass the word to Peter, I wanted to present you another outcome of the Future of Jobs survey that shows how companies evaluate importance of skills. Yeah, so this is from last year, very fresh data. And you can see that for companies, what they say are the most important skills they need. On first place, it's analytical thinking. Which definitely has a lot to do with intelligence. It's all about it. And creative thinking, which is a bit different, complex, but also linked to intelligence. And then you can see the blue ones are called self-efficacy skills, which are directly linked to what I have been just spoken about concerning the personality traits like conscientiousness, neuroticism, core self-evaluation. So you see here, for example, resilience, self-awareness, curiosity, or dependability and attention to detail. Yeah. So it's nice to see how much it really corresponds to the psychological researches. And moreover, you can see here, it's the dark green two skills. Those are skills which we can call interpersonal skills, or here they are called working with others, empathy and active listening, and leadership and social influence. Yeah. And these are also the areas in which we are able, in fact, to discover and measure the talents thanks to tools that Peter will speak about. What I just want to mention that I find very interesting, then in fact, when you look at this result, so-called hard skills, there are only 2 of them among these 10. Yeah, and when I speak about hard skills, I mean those skills that you can learn through education and experience. And so it's very interesting. All the rest are about intelligence and so-called soft skills. Okay, then, and with that, I would like to pass the word to Peter, who will tell you much more about the various colors of human talent. So, Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hannah. So, when we are talking about talent, we usually think about it as a general trait or skill. And we assume that it is a categorical attribute or ability that can be weak in some people and strong in others. It's a popular opinion, of course, but just like other popular opinions, it's not necessarily true. Human talent is a lot more complex and complicated issue than we formerly thought, even the psychologists. And the same is true for the intelligence quotient, or IQ in short. As it is, I mean, the intelligence is, a single factor thing with an all or nothing dividing line in the middle of it, right? Well, no, or at least not really. So let's see the different facts in the case of human intelligence first. Thus, we will understand the real nature of human talent a lot more easily later. Hannah, could you switch to the next slide, please? Okay, thank you. So when we are talking about human intelligence, we immediately face a surprisingly hard question. What is that exactly? I know that you probably think you know what it is, but trust me, you just probably think you know what it is. Even we psychologists don't always know what we really measure. We have plenty of different definitions for it in the field of psychometry and cognitive psychology, and they all seem quite right, basically, even if they are quite contradictory. One of the most popular concepts comes from David Wexler, the basically most well-known IQ test's father. He said that human intelligence is the global mental capacity of a person to think rationally, act purposefully, and deal with his or her environment effectively. I honestly think that it is a very smart answer to our question. However, it needs to be modified a little bit or a little bit more later. Why? Well, because we generally see intelligence now as a multifactorial cognitive ability rather than just a global mental capacity aspect. Next slide, please, Hannah. Thank you. At first, of course, psychologists also thought that it is a simple mental thing, which can be described and measured by basically a general factor, or as a G, as you can see. However, a bit later, they improved this initial theory and suggested several so-called specific factors, or S's, in addition to the G. These S's were different mental abilities, such as verbal comprehension, numerical thinking, inductive reasoning, word fluency, short-term memory, etc., in a very strong correlation with each other and with that general intellectual capacity, or the G. After that, psychologists broadened their perspective and realized that there are basically more, sometimes surprisingly different types of intelligences. For example, the fluid and the crystallized, or maybe you also know the emotional and the social intelligences. Thanks to these past improvements in theories, nowadays we generally agree in psychology that intelligence is a highly colorful substance. And one of the most popular theories summarizing this mindset is Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. Could you switch to the next slide? you. Gardner suggested that people cannot have just one general intellectual capacity. But he thought that we have many kinds of specific cognitive. He proposed that there must be at least 7 different abilities, and later he added an 8th and the 9th skill, the naturalistic and the existential intelligence. Let's see just shortly what they are exactly. People who are strong in the logical mathematical intelligence are very good at numerical reasoning, recognizing patterns, logically analyzing problems. These individuals tend to think conceptually about numbers, patterns, and relationships. Then people who are strong in linguistic verbal intelligence are very good at reading and writing stories, memorizing information, and the verbal reasoning. These individuals are able to learn and use foreign languages very easily too. Then people who are strong in the visual spatial intelligence are very good at visualizing and drawing different things. These individuals can deal with shapes, directions, maps, charts, videos, pictures very, very effectively mentally. Then people who are strong in the musical rhythmical intelligence are very good at thinking in vocal patterns, rhythms, sounds. These individuals are often keen on musical composition, musical performance. Then the people who are strong in the bodily kinesthetic intelligence, they are very good at physical control, body movements, performing actions. They tend to have very good or even excellent hand-eye coordination or dexterity. Then people who are strong in the intrapersonal intelligence are very good at being aware of their own mental states, their own thoughts, emotions, needs, and motivations. Thus, these individuals really enjoy self-reflection, self-analysis, and self-development. Then the people who are strong in the interpersonal intelligence are very good at understanding, communicating, and socially interacting with others. These individuals are highly skilled, thanks to this, at observing, interpreting, and influencing other people. Then those who are strong in the naturalistic intelligence, which is a very curious one, they are very good at exploring and nurturing their environments, or learning and caring about different species. These individuals are said to be more in tune with nature in general as well. And last but not least, those who are very strong in the existential intelligence are very good at delving into the deeper questions and the more complicated problems regarding human life and the existence of the world. These individuals are highly motivated to contemplate different philosophical or spiritual topics, such as the meaning of life. All in all, Howard Gardner's theory is very interesting and useful for us because it makes us deal with several different mental strengths and not just one or two common cognitive skills and abilities, for example, the logical, mathematical, or the linguistic verbal intelligences, which are the most measured one. But why is this topic so important in the case of talent management? Well, I think we can agree that there must be more than just one type of human intelligence, and that these intellectual abilities are in very strong connection with human talent, unless they are basically totally identical. So it's logical to say that there must be multiple talents and multiple geniuses. Because of this, if you broaden your perspective or mindset, then you can find a lot more potentials in your colleagues, in your company. They may not be smart in the regular meaning. I mean, in the case of, for example, the logical mathematical skills, but they still can be highly talented in many other ways, as we saw in Gardner's theory. So as a leader or an HR member, you should definitely observe and measure and recognize several different competencies before a talent management program, then appreciate and develop and utilize them later during the program. Could you switch to the next slide? Thank you. The only remaining question is, of course, how to measure these competencies. But the most frequently used methods, such as the KPIs, the performance reviews, superior recommendations, the 360 assessments, the different interviews, as Hannah mentioned, basically they will be just not enough, not anymore. They can be used, of course. They will be still very interesting for us, but they usually measure only just some of the interpersonal skills and basically the subject's social reputation and diligence and ambition. And if you ask me, these aspects don't necessarily indicate real talent, but maybe only the organizational citizenship, which is a totally different concept. That is why you will need to use some extra tools with which you will be able to discover real talents from very different points of view. These rarely used methods are, on the one hand, the psychometric, such as cognitive tests and personality inventories, and on the other hand, the assessment and development centers containing, for example, business simulations, role-play exercises, and self-reflections. Talking about the cognitive tests, as in the case of our company, the assessment systems, we are using three different tests: the abstract reasoning test, the diagrammatic reasoning test, and the numerical reasoning test, which are not just easy or simple IQ tests. These are different cognitive abilities, and we measure different types of reasoning or thinking. Then in the case of the Hogan assessment tools, we use them as, of course, the psychological and personality inventory. And we use three different parts of these Hogan assessment: the Hogan personality inventory, which measures basically the whole structure of anybody's personality, the different most important dimensions of the different traits. Then we use Hogan Development Survey that measures the different stress management methods and the derailers that people are not really aware of. And of course, the motives, values, and preferences inventory, which is about their motivation, their incentives, their drives, so we can see what really motivates them, what they are wanting. And about just shortly about the assessment and development centers, they are full-day programs consisting of several different tasks and exercises. I mentioned the business simulations, or the role play, or the self-reflection, which are short but very effective exercises to measure several different competencies at the same time in, of course, a virtual environment. If you mix these very colorful techniques with each other, you will be able to thoroughly measure several skills, traits, derailers, blind spots, and motives and values, as we saw. And thus, you can easily spot the invisible stars on the horizon. So to sum up on the last slide of mine, thank you. You will definitely need to enrich your personal business toolkit, not just broaden your mindset and perspective regarding this topic. This way, it will be totally fine if somebody is just not a talent during a selection program or process. They will still get several very, very useful experiences and insights thanks to these various exercises during the selection process. Thus, you can enhance the satisfaction, the motivation, and your employer brand at the same time, thanks to the professionalism, the inclusiveness, and very complex constructiveness of such a project. And eventually, this all, of course, can be very time and energy consuming. But it will be 100% worth it eventually, since you will get basically the best of the best from your company. Then they will be real talents, and you can utilize, them or their competencies later in a short period. That's all what I wanted to mention regarding intelligence and talent and the different techniques to measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. I think with that it becomes pretty much clear what we would recommend. But to make it even clearer, and maybe also for you to understand better the benefits of this approach, I would like to invite Aniko to share with us the experience and the concept of 30 under 30, which is a special program within Deutsche Telekom. So Aniko, please, can you tell us what is it exactly, what's the concept, and why so important for your company?
Yeah, thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you for the question. Before I jump into the details, because I'm sure that you guys are curious about what is in it, and especially how did we do the selection process, I'm going to share that just to give you a bit of a big picture what this whole program is and why it actually came to life. So we are talking about Deutsche Telekom's Words of Europe. So it's an international program. It was an international business need actually that brought this program 30 under 30 to life in around 2021. And the issue was that in executive level leadership, the age diversity was not very good. So basically we had executive leaders, and I'm not really allowed to share the number of ages, but it was not my age, let's say, that the average age was in executive leaders. And we saw that it also affects innovation. It also affects so many aspects in the company, and also this diverse thinking process that is required to really lead the company forward and stay the top one telco in Europe. So that was basically the business need. And we also wanted to enhance the cooperation in the countries, because if you guys work in an international company, I'm sure you often come to the realization that intercultural, cross-country cooperation is not always the easiest, and also cross-functional, etc. So we thought this might also be a tool to support that. And we also decided to put a lot of effort, energy, time, money, so a lot of resources into this program. So we took this seriously, and therefore we wanted to have the best people. In these 10 countries, we are talking about Central and Eastern European countries with different cultures, different leadership styles, different everything basically. And they are already amazing, caring and tending and grooming their own talents locally. But we wanted to have the best of the best. And 30 under 30 came to life for that. And the name is 30 under 30 because we only were looking for people under 30. Which you can imagine was also an interesting topic within the company. Age diversity or discrimination, everything came, and we had to discuss lots of things around that. But we decided to go for this generation, people below 30. And also we do not have 30 people in the program. The aim is that within 5 years, we have 30 people basically who went through the program and completed it. The program itself is 1.5 years, and it's also unique, maybe a tip for you guys, that we take them out of their positions. So we do not let them do what they did before, but we take them out for that position. They are like as if they left that position forever. So the manager actually has to hire another person. And for that 1.5 years, we give them free assignments. We basically give them a local one in another function. Then we give them an international one. So they go abroad and experience different culture for 6 months. That's the fun part and also the hardest one. And for the last half year, they go back home and join already in a leadership position. And as you were guys talking about this, how to find this potential, you know, what was our goal here is that it's very hard when you see people's performance, but you don't really care about that. You want to see the potential. And that was actually the HR director of Europe. When we came up with the selection process, she was like, okay, but guys, are you sure that you will see the leadership, the executive level leadership potential in these people? Because I don't really care. Of course, we did check the performance, but we didn't really want to see those relatively subjective stuff. But we were really interested in the executive position. So that's the big context I wanted to give. And is it okay if I deep dive into the selection process itself?
Yeah, please. My question would have been that whether you could summarize the basic structure of that selection.
Yeah. You're so cute.
What the main steps and tools you use?
Yeah. You actually, they were very good because they prepared questions, but I cannot just stop talking, so I will answer them anyways. So I prepared just a helper slide for you to be able to visualize it better. But let me just briefly share how we put together this selection process. So here you see that it's not a short selection. That's actually one thing that is not that good with it. However, we are talking about a huge life decision also with these guys, these youngsters, that we wanted to make sure that it's the best one. And if you really want to have the best of the best, then you need to invest time and effort and many people's job into that. So it's a long process, yes. It has many steps, but at the end of the day, I can comfortably say that we really did come up with 9 people who are amazing. So how it's put together is you see that there is a local step and there is a global step, central global step. First, of course, local HR colleagues interviewed the people who self-nominated, and that's also an important part, that this was a self-nominating process. Again, not only, I think Hannah, you mentioned that very often these talent spotting things, the obstacle is that the leaders are asked, okay, whom do you see? And then the quieter ones or the not so extrovert ones or the juniors are not really seen. So here the only thing was that you have to be in the company for at least a year, but we actually have a person who joined a year before, so we really have the juniors there in their first position. So that was the first step: self-nominations and local interview, checking just the motivation and stuff. So not really deep diving into yet, just the usual HR interview. And then we had an online assessment where we basically checked these attributes that Peter already mentioned. I don't want to steal the time and mention it again, but we did that. And then the success journey candidates, who are basically another programs candidates, they are already executive leaders, and that's also an interesting part. Like these are potentially executive leaders of the future. Let's ask the people who already have those positions to have an opinion of these people. So how do you measure potential? That's also a very nice tool to use to actually connect these people and ask, okay, do you think this person has the potential or not? So that was also a step there. And then at the end, every country had their own interviews with their CEOs and HR directors, and then they were sent to the global selection process, where we basically did what Peter already mentioned. So we called it personality test because it's easier for the company to understand, but we are talking about the Hogan behavioral styles. We are talking about also the assessment center for the whole day process. It was intense, but at the end of the day, even the people who did not get in the program said that, oh my God, this experience really helped me to understand myself, to understand my development points, my strengths, and also going forward, how it actually works in an assessment center, how it is built up, and how I can use this experience further in my career. And later on, based on all this, with the support of assessment systems, we actually had 9 people selected. So that was the process. I will stop sharing.
Sorry, I just jump in with one question from somebody who's following us. How did you select people for the first interview?
So it was self-nomination. So whoever self-nominated had an interview. There were a few pre-requirements in the program. Every local entity decided whether or not or how they want to include performance scores. It was totally individual up to every local entity, also considering how this program fits into their talent management strategy. And they needed to create a video. So first one was application was not only a CV. I don't even think everybody asked for a CV, but it was rather 3-4 questions. I think this year it was 4 questions, and they had to record the answers, stuff around motivation and the leadership. We call the leadership anchors. It's basically the leadership expectations of the company. It's six stuff, the usual things which you expect leaders from coaching style leadership till customer focus, I don't know, this stuff. So those questions, like what it means to them, these values, etc. And then the local HR people had these 25-minute quick interviews with them, just reflecting on these and asking back questions based on the video interviews.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anniko, it's a complex approach. I think you really meant it when you decided to do this. There was a very clear objective, like, and also taking people for 1.5 years from their jobs, and then like in 5 years, they have to really be ready for the higher level positions. But when you look at that complex approach, is there something you would do differently? And what was maybe the most beneficial?
Most beneficial definitely was the learning curve that the candidates had. I just read yesterday the feedback forms we sent out to everybody who participated in the selection in whichever part, and it was mainly positive. Like they consider this something that they gain from. But also what I would, and next year we have to consider is this time is really long, and it's just, it's really a massive thing. It has already its brand in telecom. It's like a cool thing to be in the 30 and the 30 in the company, which is amazing on the one hand. On the other hand, it's a huge pressure on people to get there. But also I believe that during the assessment centers, as it is 1 day long, and how the atmosphere was created there, we could reach a place where they could really be themselves. And as Peter mentioned, we actually did one AC together, Peter and myself. There is this very essential part during the assessment centers, the self-reflection part, where we ask them, okay, look back at the day. What did you do good, and what didn't you do so good? What were the mistakes? And there is also, a chance for them to still show stuff that we couldn't see. And I didn't really answer the question. So I would keep many things that work great, and especially using the Hogan assessment itself, the results which you see with the behavioral types, using that also going into the ACs, the assessment centers, and give this opportunity for people to basically grow, not only for the sake of the selection, but also for them to develop. I would also keep that. I would shorten it a bit because it's very stressful, but I don't know yet how. Tips are welcome.
That's a big question. And you mentioned the good atmosphere within the assessment center or development center. It's always what we try to provide for people to feel as good as possible, but it's by itself, of course, it's always a stressful situation.
But it's also fun. I don't know if you, dear people who are listening, this Eduardo game. It's 5-ish people, 5-6 people, basically owning a company, a startup, an application, and they go through this management one by one, month by month, and it is fun. And they forget about themselves, and they start to really behave just like they normally would. And that's also in the feedback forms I read, like, yeah, I'm very sorry I didn't get in, but that Eduardo was fun. So it's really cool too.
Thank you. Peter, do you have a question? I don't want to steal the questions.
No. Maybe, Anniko, have you or your colleagues experienced bigger surprises regarding the individual performances of the participants or their results?
I think it's yes, I would say the biggest surprise for us is the Hogan results, and especially for the people who performed very well and are considered high flyers right now and really potential executive leaders in the future, the areas which they should develop. We very often talk about this generation, what this generation how this generation works differently to the Y generation and also the previous ones. And actually, it's from my perspective, it's different based on the Hogan assessment. So it was rather around interpersonal sensitivity, for example, where Hogan tells you how easily you can connect on a one-on-one basis to the other person, and also how you sense the room, how you feel the emotions there. And it's going to be definitely a huge development point through the program. The program also includes a very massive development part, of course, and we also tailor that to the people who got into the program, and that kind of surprised me. Yeah, that was a big surprise. In general, the Hogan results for the team, not only for individuals, but in general, the team. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm. And maybe regarding an assessment center, because my usual experience that is sometimes some people are very good at the first exercise when they are in a group simulation, and later they are okay, they are not that bad, and then they can be sometimes pretty interesting later when it comes to their individual exercises and tasks, such as the role play tasks. And the contrary is also true, that somebody is because they are introverted, they are not that active or not that in the first act. But later they will get better and better, and at the end of the day they will be excellent, and they get easily into the program. So do you have similar experiences?
Yeah, just this the selection process, we had a candidate, maybe it was 30 and 30. Sorry, I was thinking because we simultaneously did another program, but it was 30 and 30, where we had a candidate who was kind of like the same situation you mentioned, a very introverted person. And in the beginning, where we had the group exercise, was silent for a long period of time, around 5 to 10 minutes, which, to be honest, the assessors are prepared for not to have or to be conscious about unconscious biases. So if somebody is quiet, that doesn't mean that that person will never be a good leader. And later on, just with the small little sentences, guided the whole team into basically the right direction. Although it was a disaster at the end because the loud people were too loud, but still that person really could connect to the direction which they should go to. So that and later on, also in the individual part, there is this interview we had where my partner, SSU partner, I was just observing this, was playing a role of a employee who is a bit problematic, has difficulties with another peer, and the boss was this candidate who was being assessed there, and the emotional intelligence, the cleverness, all the other intelligence stuff that you mentioned, that person brought into that conversation. I actually, when we quit that call, I was like, oh my God, I've never seen this to be solved so beautifully, so humanly, with respect, but also with giving directions, with offering help, with everything that a leader should do in this kind of situation. And that was surprising because you don't always expect people who don't connect to a crowd to be so much actually on a one-on-one basis so cleverly connecting to others. And again, unconscious biases are there because why would this be true? But that was a good surprise, a positive experience.
Yeah, and I think it's always a good lesson or reminder for me and for anybody else who is doing an assessment center, that you shouldn't just describe and judge somebody based on their performance in the first task. Because intelligence and talent is not general. Maybe, okay, they were good at the first exercise or bad at the first exercise, but later they can prove that, okay, they are not that good, or no, they are a lot better than we first thought. So I think that's why it's so important to use different methods, different techniques, because yeah, we are very colorful, and we need to see the true colors of their talent. And maybe, okay, they are not talented in general, but have very good skills regarding, I don't know, a specific topic. We can use that knowledge later, maybe not in the talent management program, but outside it.
Yeah, and just to add an extra layer to that, of course, the cultural differences is also to be considered. So we had to know the 10 countries, nations, cultures before we went into this AC, because if a Greek person is communicating very loudly, that doesn't mean, you know, being very directive. And also if a Hungarian one is very quiet, like I am, of course I am, no, right? I'm not. So it's a complex thing. And if you go for the assessment center option, which I really recommend to do, that's how you really see who is who. Just be very prepared of unconscious biases, cultural differences, but all kinds of D&I aspects that need to be considered if you really want to find your best people.
Aniko, thank you very much for this great summary, of very important points also when it comes to assessment center. We are coming to an end. Maybe if someone has more questions, I'm looking at the LinkedIn to see questions, please, it's the last moment, don't hesitate. I still have one question, Aniko, because you know we speak here today about discovering the hidden stars, so we focused on the selection, but nevertheless, I'm very much keen on how did you then continue working on the development of people? If you can tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, happy to. There is a German academy based in Europe who is the academy providing the youngsters the leadership development, and we do that face to face. We do that old school version, and this face to face development really is still something different. I love online stuff. I love online work, but for leadership, deep self-awareness, and all the stuff that we put into this leadership journey, it is face-to-face in Berlin. So that's one thing that they do, not only in the beginning face-to-face, but also regularly going to Berlin. That's one part. The other one is a strategic mentorship that we put in, very well matched people. So already executive people matched with the youngsters. And also, which is very, very important, is the 30 under 30 community, we call it. So they built their own community, but that's actually learning about values, which they don't really know yet in the beginning, but later on they will find out as they move on how they can support each other and how they kind of find the barriers where they can either learn something or extremely get out of the comfort zone. We try not to put them in the panic zone. Sometimes it happens, but we try not to do that. But out of the comfort zone, it's 1.5 year journey there.
Yeah, great. Thank you for this brief summary of the program. We could spend another hour on that.
Yeah.
But the time is out. And Aniko, thank you very much. We would like to thank from Assessment Systems to Aniko Darci from Deutsche Telekom for her participation, because I think this example shows very well what we try to pass as the message. And the program itself, it's so interesting. I find it really, like the top when I listen to what are your objectives with the whole program. I think that's great. It's a wonderful approach. So thank you very much. We are very glad we can cooperate with Telecom, of course.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you all for following us during this webinar. There will be recording for you on the YouTube, I suppose, so you can then follow. If you missed any part, you can go back to something, you can share it. We will be very glad. Thank also to my colleague Petra. Thank you all, and I wish you a very nice day.
Thank you to Hannah.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.